comes Colby. All right, I got you, Colby.
Morning.
Good morning. Do you remember me telling you about that guy that was causing me all those problems? The student I had that was complaining about personal anecdotes and pictures of Pebble Beach and all that stuff, right? And complaining to my bosses and stirring up a whole lot of anxiety and stress for me. It's totally flat. You know, I just, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but challenges, I believe that challenges, my challenges, people in my life that challenge me are my teachers, and that the universe brings me the teachers when I need them, and they need to teach me certain things. And it's always certain things about myself. And so this guy needed to show me some things, and I needed to see some things about myself. And I was able to, just put my ego aside and my, you know, all the assumptions and the taking it personally. And, you know, I reached out to him and I had him become my videographer for a class. Anyway, now we're just like that. We're tight. And I realized that, you know, I just need to get out of myself. You know, when you're communicating with someone, it really helps. When I'm communicating with someone, it really helps if I really get out of me and listen to them. And a lot of what people say is not verbal. And in fact, isn't there a quote somewhere that 90% of communication is nonverbal? I'm not sure I buy that, but anyway, it worked out really great. So now this student and I have a good relationship, and we're really friendly, and it feels really good to me. And it feels like, you know, that he just needed to be acknowledged, and he needed somebody like me to acknowledge him, and you know, to just take the time to address his concerns and treat him like a real human being, which I was ultimately, in the end, very happy to do. And it was very worthwhile and very rewarding, and has been. I did record, John. Thank you. We're recording. Thanks for reminding me. A little late though, Johnny. I got on there. I'm all by myself. Okay, let's just see if anybody else has snuck in here. Did Josh or D'Angelo come? Joshua Santana? How about Emmanuel or Armando? Mondo or Manny? No? All right. Because this class, my 111 credit class, is my favorite class. I shouldn't say that, but I will. And I feel like I can be myself with y'all, and I can share myself with y'all, and that you all seem to have responded pretty good to just hearing a couple of things. I'm gonna read a little bit on the third agreement about don't make assumptions. I was reading this this morning, just reminding myself, the third agreement, don't make assumptions. The third agreement is don't make assumptions. We have the tendency to make assumptions about everything. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are the truth. We could swear they're real. We make assumptions about what others are doing or thinking. We take it personally, and then we blame them and react by sending emotional poison with our word. That is why whenever we make assumptions, we're asking for problems. We make an assumption, we misunderstand, we take it personally, we end up creating a whole big drama for nothing. All the sadness and drama you have lived in your life was rooted in making assumptions and taking things personally. Take a moment to consider the truth of this statement. The whole war of control between humans is about making assumptions and taking things personally. Our whole dream of hell is based on that. We create a lot of emotional poison just by making assumptions and taking it personally, because usually we start gossiping about our assumptions. Remember, gossiping is the way we communicate each other and communicate to each other in the dream of hell and transfer poison to one another. Because we are afraid to ask for clarification, we make assumptions and believe we are right about the assumption. Then we defend our assumptions and try to make someone else wrong. It's always better to ask questions than to make an assumption, because assumptions set us up for suffering. Indeed. Okay, anybody sneak in here? Mondo, Manuel, D'Angelo, Josh, All right. So, Alinda, apologize again for not being prepped so you could go through it prior to this morning and pick out any words you don't know. I'm usually more on top of it. I just have been so darn busy, and with my wife away, I've had to do her job too. Not really. Her job of taking care of the dog. Oh yeah, which reminds me. I'm sure some of you have dogs or have had dogs, right? And if you've ever had a run-in, if you've ever lived around skunks, I suspect you've probably had a run-in with a skunk and a dog. I have, more than one. We have a skunk, at least one skunk, if not a family of skunks. And I'm told that skunks have multiple houses, multiple domiciles that they move around in. But we have one skunk that lives in a hedge, in my hedge. I have a giant hedge. And in the back, it's really thick and really twisted and gnarly. It's probably that, thick, maybe that thick. And possums used to live in there, and raccoons would come through the fence. But I know a skunk lives in there. I've seen him. And I see the skunk around. I don't really care for skunks, and I'm trying to live and let live. Rocky is just nuts about this skunk, right? The minute he gets out, he sniffs around where the skunk has been, and he goes up and he noses up to the hedge, and he's like, he knows the skunk's in there, right? And I think the skunk's just laughing at him. And he hasn't been sprayed for well over a year. It's been over a year. It was like 3 a.m. when he got sprayed the last time, well over a year ago. So today when I got home in a really good mood, yesterday, after a haircut, and I went to the Natural Cafe. Someone, my guests, had mentioned the Natural Cafe, and I remembered how much I liked Old Town salads with sauteed tofu, and I ordered one on the phone, and I have half a salad, and I picked it up, and I headed home with my bag, ready to sit down on my patio and have a delicious, healthful dinner. My dog jumps out of the car and immediately corners a skunk in the carport, and then, the air is redolent with skunk. And of course, the dog's covered with skunk juice. And so, I can't let him in the house. I can't sit on my patio. I can't eat the food. So I shut the gate on the dog in the back, go in, bring up the formula on the internet again, just make sure I'm not just trusting my memory, jump on my bicycle, ride to CVS, buy 4 pints, which is 2 quarts, 2 pints per quart, 32 ounces a quart, 16 ounces a pint. I buy 2 quarts of hydrogen peroxide, which I have to do 2 transactions on, so I can't use my extra box because they won't sell you more than 2 at a time. 2 things of baking soda, race home, clean out a bucket, pour in a quart of hydrogen peroxide. And in case you don't know this, don't need to write it down. It's available on the internet. Quart of hydrogen peroxide, 1/4 cup of baking soda, 2 tablespoons of dishwashing soap, and Dawn is the best. Dawn dishwashing soap, 2 tablespoons, 1/4 cup of baking soda, a quart of hydrogen peroxide in a bucket, mixed really well. I wore rubber gloves, got the water nice and warm on the handheld, got the dog, got him in the tub, and did the solution on, pouring it on and working it on. I'm supposed to leave it on 10 to 20 minutes. And then anyway, after I washed it off, I had it on maybe 10 minutes. Then I gave him a shampoo with this doggy shampoo we have, this No Tears doggy shampoo. And that stuff, hydrogen peroxide, baking soda, and dish soap, eliminates skunk odor. I mean, gone like never happened. And this dog sleeps in the bed with us. And when he's been bathed, you really want to cuddle with him because he's so soft. Anyway, smells like sugar cookies, which is what he's supposed to smell like with that dog shampoo, and not a hint of skunk. So my wife comes home today, finally 2 days late. She couldn't get out because of the snow in Denver, and she'll have a fluffy, sweet smelling dog. And Rocky will not have learned his lesson. No way. It's like, you think, God, could you just stop chasing skunks? I mean, no, I'm a dog. I'm never going to stop chasing skunks. It's my nature. Okay.
Have you watched that movie Hachi with Richard Gere? It's a true story. It's based on a true story.
What's it called?
Hachi.
Can you spell it?
I'm not sure. It's Japanese. It was really about a man in Japan, but they remade it as if it were here in the U.S. But Richard Gere ends up with this husky.
No, it's Akita.
Oh, Akita, sorry. And it gets sprayed. They both get sprayed by a skunk, and they end up in the bathtub, but it's with tomato sauce to get rid of
Tomato
the
juice.
smell.
Tomato
Oh, tomato juice. You're right. Yeah.
Tomato juice, that's the big thing. Tomato juice. Like, no, you tell me, would you rather bathe your dog in tomato juice or?
No.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, I haven't
No.
tried that, but Hachi, huh? It's got to be Hachi. I'm going to try that. So that's my Rocky story. And now before we get into decks, we're going to do a safety meeting, and then I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you that. And then we're going to do decks. So let's do a safety meeting right now. I'm going to share my. Oh shoot! I didn't put anything up. I don't think I have to. I hope I don't have to. Yeah, okay, we're good. We are so good. Week 14, folks. All right, let's do attic safety. What do you say? Fine, open with Firefox. The pictures are better. Okay, I'll read the introduction, and then I'll call on some people to read for us. Attic safety guidelines. Introduction. Ordinary attics and even crawl spaces are considered confined spaces, and they present certain risks every time you enter them. However, permit required and non-permit required confined spaces present different risks, and most attics are typically classified as non-permit required. I'm not sure I know what that means, but I think we're going to find out. So, Jesus, could you please read definitions for us?
Definitions. Attics are by definition a confined space. However, attic spaces generally fall into the category of non-permit required. Continuous spaces because they usually have either
Confined spaces.
Oh, okay, not that. Confined spaces because they usually have either natural or mechanical ventilation to prevent an occupation of hazardous atmosphere. And because other hazards are not normally present, for example, most attics do not have agitators, rotating shafts, or plates, etc.
Okay, how about Brenda next, please? Safety guidelines.
Safety guidelines. Employees who work in non-permit required attics must observe the following safe work practices. When climbing up into the attic, 3 points of contact are required on ladders at all times. You must wear protective clothing and equipment to prevent irritation or injury in attics. A long sleeve shirt, gloves, and pants. A hard hat to protect your head from protruding nails. Respirators to help protect you from airborne fibers. Safety glasses or goggles. Temporary platforms complete with rails must be installed if possible prior to working in attics in order to discourage employees from stepping on any surface besides a truss or a joist. Air monitoring or additional ventilation methods may be required in some attics.
Okay, let's let somebody else read. We don't have that much more to read. How about, let's jump ahead to Colby.
Are we finished?
No, we want you to read I think
No, I'm
Brenda
asking.
just read air monitoring. So you need to read visually.
Oh, okay, I see. Air monitoring or additional ventilation methods may be required in some attics. Visually check for wood rot before placing weight on any wood parts. If possible, or no.
Is this small for you? Are you doing this on a phone?
No, but it is small for some reason.
Is this better?
Yeah, a little bit. Attics should be well lit, ensure visibility during any length periods of work. If possible, employees should avoid disturbing an insulation to reduce the amount of dust, mold, or fiber that may be released into the air. Attics may get very hot in warm weather, so it is important to drink plenty of water and take frequent breaks to avoid heat illness. Consider placing a drop cloth under the hatch to catch any dust or fiber that falls out of the attic for easier cleanup. When finished working in the attic, avoid spreading the fibers on your clothes to the rest of the house, garage, or facility by not going into uncontaminated areas, not shaking off your clothes or tools, stepping quickly outside or to a designated area to brush off or change your clothes before moving to other tasks.
Okay, in conclusion, attic safety is commonly overlooked but very important. All applicable safety guidelines must be followed when working in the attic. So, you know, attic work is a fact of life in construction for some of us. We have to crawl up in attics and do all kinds of stuff. We have to look at utilities up there. We have to look at forced air units. A lot are in the attic. Insulation is in the attic. Electrical and plumbing is in the attic. Ventilation handlers in the attic. Attics are used for storage. In my house, I have an attic that is accessible in the hallway from a pull-down staircase, and it's decked pretty much the whole footprint of the house, and it's all storage. And it's I can stand up to about 2 feet either side of the ridge, the long gable that runs down the length of the attic of my house. But beyond that, I have to stoop. But we use it for storage. My house is built in 1930, so I don't think I have any insulation up there. It just gets dusty. But one thing attics get that everybody should hopefully be able to relate to is they get hot. They get really hot. You know, they're unconditioned spaces. They're not conditioned like your house is with, you know, heating and cooling elements as well as insulation. So being unconditioned space, they get really hot, and that air can get trapped up there if your attic isn't properly ventilated. By the way, attics need to be properly ventilated, and for nothing else, to let heat escape. But one thing I have found in my house that has made a big difference is an attic fan. It's a big old, it's got probably 12-inch blades. It's a big, maybe almost 2-foot round cap that sits up on top of the roof, and then below that into the attic is a fan cage, and it's thermostatic controlled. So I can set it to, I think I have it set to about 90 now. So it gets to a certain temperature, the fan comes on, and it draws air out of the attic and exhausts the hot air. And it's really a good thing to have. So do I have any comments or questions about this? Nothing? Nobody wants to chime in there? Okay. Attic safety, just be careful. And probably falling through joists, being careful with your step. And if you're going to do much work in an attic, if you're just going up there to look at some stuff or inspect, or you're not going to be up there very long and there's not much work, then fine, be careful and step on the joist. But if you're going to be doing some work up there, consider bringing up some plywood or boards to stand on. For instance, in the Mangone project that I've shown you guys a bunch of videos on, before we ever got too far along, I needed to get somebody up in the attic space. First of all, to expand it, to make it bigger. So big enough to get the forced air unit in and big enough to meet code requirements, but also needed to get a platform up there. So I needed to move some stuff around and get a plywood deck down so that the FAU guys who were going to install by hanging from the rafters, the forced air unit, they had a platform to work off of and not try to stand on joists, because you're just asking for somebody to slip off a joist, you know, miss a footing and then go right to the ceiling. And that's not the worst of it. You know, a hole punched in your ceiling is eminently fixable. But if you fall and wind up straddling a joist, that is catching a joist between the legs, you may remember it your whole life. So don't do it. Get a deck up there. Be safe, please. And so I wanted to show you guys a couple of
Hey,
things.
hey, Rodney,
Yes, go ahead.
you know, I was talking about non-permitted space. Years back, MSHA and OSHA had asked MSHA, because MSHA, most of the time, they have a lot of, well, I can't say they have a lot, but they have the most information on what they call confined spaces. And so they had asked MSHA about it. You know, people were all like, what concern is a mining safety, you know, a health association? What does that have to do with housing? You know, but anyways, they left it alone. But OSHA came to them because they considered an attic, anything that's one way in and one way out, they consider it a confined space. You know, because you can in an attic, just like you said, if it gets too hot, you can die in there and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But years back, MSHA tried to control that, and they said, "You guys ain't in the housing industry."
Huh.
But it was OSHA who went to them and asked them about confined spaces. So then that's why they made it a non-permit, because, you know, MSHA
Oh, I see.
didn't have nothing to do with it.
Yeah,
And
so
OSHA
if
made it
if it's non-permitted, then it takes it out of a whole bunch of requirements. Yeah, that makes
Oh,
sense.
yeah, because if it's not, shoot, you got that, like I said, it's only one way in, one way out. That's what they consider a confined space. You have to have all these permits to go in. You have to have somebody watch you do work and everything. But that's why, you know, that's why it's a non-permitted job now.
Good, good. I'm glad they did that. Somebody got finally wise to what was happening. Hey, I pinned for a minute to show you a couple of things. Just as kind of an aside. So I set up the laser transit in the backyard of Mangones yesterday. First, I made a sketch of the house. That's the existing house. And then I made some circles of some that represented some areas, like here's the oak tree. I used John's 100-foot tape and did some dimensioning, but I shot some elevations. So the one closest to the house, which I shot at about 6 feet back, which is a fairly, that grade is pretty close to where it's going to be. It might come up a little bit, but it doesn't have to go down. But I shot it at 3, 5, and 7/8. 3, 5, and 7/8. Now, that's just, you know, when I set up the laser, wherever I set the laser up, it doesn't really matter as long as I can see the points, as long as there's a straight line for the laser to hit the receiver. Then please remember that the 3, 5, and 7/8 doesn't mean anything. It's only relative to other elevations. So I figured that was the elevation that was going to be my starting point, and my owner wants to be relatively level from back there. So when I shot near the house, 6 feet off the house, it was going to be about the existing grade at 3, 5, and 7/8. Then I went up here 38 feet back and shot where the grade goes up, obviously goes up. And that shot was 2 foot 1 1/4. So at 2 foot 1 1/4, that's about 15 inches. That's 14 and change inches difference, right? So the 3, 5 less the 2 foot means that it's going uphill. So that's the difference. So actually I went ahead and had one of our guys pothole right next to this existing wall down to the bottom of the what we consider to be the foundation of it. And that got shot at 2 foot 5. So from 3, 5, and 7/8, that's 13 inches. But we're going to call it 12 inches for argument. So the difference is a foot. And that foot, I figured, by 20 feet, straight across by 50 feet. That's 1,000 square feet. And as it so happened, using a foot that's 1,000 cubic feet. And so 1,000 oh, you know what? Is that right? 1,000, okay, so there's 27 cubic feet in a cubic yard. 27, right? 27 cubic feet? Yeah, so square feet to cubic feet is times 27, right? Divided by 27. Yeah, that's what it is. So anyway, 1,000 divided by 27 is 37 yards. So I'm figuring 37 yards coming out of there. The guy I had bid it talked about 57 yards. So I need to get with him and have him show me the math. So math. And next fall, if you're interested, I'm teaching CT 118, and it's measuring and calculating. Be there or be square. So I wanted to show you that. I know I got a little slightly confused. And then I'm doing this house, this Victorian, having it painted, designed kitchen and bathroom for it. It's called the Spencer House. And while going over this job with the painter and the owner, decided that they didn't have any address numbers on these two main posts that flank the porch. And so we decided to put address numbers. So I measured and did a little quick scale drawing. And then, so I knew what would fit, right? So my scale drawing is that's 25 3/4 at 3-inch scale. And so I know at 4-inch numbers, but I think 2 inches of spacing, it fits. That's the flagpole mount that's there. That's where the post ends at a railing. So I had that 25 3/4, 25 1/2 inches of space. And so that was the layout I did. And then there's my W, there's my 2, there's my O, there's my O, there's my W. 200 west, huh? This is the fun stuff. Because really, without getting that measure and laying it out to scale, I wouldn't have had any idea really what size numbers. I would have thought, yeah, 6-inch numbers maybe work. So it really helps to measure well and to be able to understand and lay out to scale. Did I show you guys Chacon's kitchen? I don't think I did. I'm just going to show you briefly because I think I showed the other class, but I just finished these drawings last Sunday. Yeah, so you wouldn't have seen them. So that's the kitchen with one section through elevation and showing the ceiling height and typical heights of the uppers and the lowers. That's the bathroom with an elevation of the vanity, wall hung vanity, and a bunch of keynotes. And along with that, what I provided with the owner, and I don't know why he hasn't got back to me, is scope of work. Scope of work for the kitchen and a 2-page scope of work for the bathroom. And all that came from my initial meeting with them where I generated sketched and dimensioned plans, not to scale, just sketch the room and my ideas, dimension them so I could later turn them into a scale drawing, and then also made notes for a scope of work. And that's the sketch and dimension. That's the dimension sketch I did for the bathroom. So that's the process, folks, to come up with a plan. And then that plan now can be bid by multiple people. Because hopefully they got the information they need to do it now. Did Mondo or Emmanuel make it? Dario? Kevin did, no wait, Kevin, you're here. Eric Mendez, did you make it? Josh Santana? No? Okay. All right, let's go. Let's go to decks. So Jim's been talking to you about decks, and I don't know if you have been, if you've been looking at you should have read chapter 29. And we're going to go through some deck stuff here. And then I'm going to show you a killer way to do handrails. All right, decks. For some of you have done decks. I'm sure John's done a deck or two. For me, decks are probably my favorite thing to do. You know, they're outside. Typically, they can tie to a house, and typically they do tie to a house. Sometimes they don't tie to a house, but they're just the most fun to do. And we'll go through some of this stuff after I go through the stuff I want to show you. Yeah, we'll go through it. Blind fasteners. How to do blind fasteners underneath your deck boards. That's pretty cool. Laying out the deck. Okay, so let's go back to our mod. And let's go to this guy. So Simpson is I've talked to you about Simpson. I think I went over, showed you some videos, Simpson videos. They make builders hardware. They've been, over the years, been branching it into more and more and more things. And they do a lot of deck fastenings, and they got this really cool piece of software. It's a I might go through this kind of fast. I think this software, I think this is free software too. I'm pretty sure you don't even have to buy this. Wow. 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 Wow, wow, wow. 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 Dang. Wow. Huh. Whoa. Huh. Wow. Huh. Jeez. Huh. God dang. Huh. Jeez. Jeez. Oh, dogs. God. Huh. Wow. 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 God. God dang.
That looks like
Unbelievable.
fun. That
Yeah.
looks like so much fun to design and stuff.
Doesn't it? And I wonder if that
Yeah.
is free. I'll have to find out. That was
Yeah,
very
I would love
impressive.
to play around with that.
We're going to take a break until 10 after 10. Okay? Come back and see me here at 10 after 10, please. Sorry, I got lost reading. I forgot where I was for a second. Oh, here I am. Here I am. Let's see. No, I didn't pause the recording, but oh well. Worse things have happened. And not pausing and recording. Somebody, are you guys texting me? My wife just texted me, at gate in Denver, flight delayed 2 days. Ha ha ha. I just kill myself now. Okay, so that was incredible video, wasn't it? I mean, that is just amazing. I got to find out from Simpson if that's free. I can't imagine that software is free now that I've seen how sophisticated it is. I'll find out if it costs and what it costs, but wow, what a trip to lay out a deck like that. And then I did, that's right. I was showing my back to work class cabinet vision and how cabinet vision works, but it's pretty much the same. Once you get that deck done on the computer, then it spits out every stick in the job. What a great way to make a cut list, material list. What a great way to price a deck. And then all those ways to see it, I just love. Let's look at some stuff here. So some of the things about decks, and I think Jim went over this with you, your choices of deck boards and deck fastening. So, basically Ipe, Redwood, you can do them in fir. There are a few other things you can put down as decking material, but then you get into the composites and the engineered woods like TimberTech, which I've got a little video on. So, well, let's just look at some of the ways to fasten deck boards. So here's Simpson's idea of hidden deck fastening. It's pretty cool. I like it. I like these hidden fasteners, really like them, rather than, like I have a deck at my house that's surface nail with galvanized headed 16 penny nails, and the heads are always kind of working up a little bit. I have to knock them down, a few of them, every year at least. I wish I had done my deck with blind fasteners. So here's one way that Simpson has of doing them blind.
The Ebb-Tie Premium Hidden Deck Fastening System by Simpson Strong Tie is the professional's choice for hidden deck fasteners. And now, with so many design improvements, it's easier than ever to install at any skill level.
Rodney, is there
Ebb-Tie
closed
features
captioning?
perfect
Say it again, please.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but is there closed captioning?
Yeah, I thought I'd already clicked it.
The Ebb-Tie Premium
you.
Hidden Deck Fastening System by Simpson Strong Tie is the professional's choice for hidden deck fasteners. And now, with so many design improvements, it's easier than ever to install at any skill level. The Ebb Guide ensures perfect pre-drill screw placement every time. The chamfered edges allow for faster insertion and board placement. And the stainless steel plate eliminates overdriving, improves holding power, and adds stability. The Ebb-Tie system creates a precise connection to give your deck a consistent, clean, concealed look. Allow the natural beauty of the wood to show through on the outside while improving strength and durability on the inside. The Ebb-Tie Premium Stainless Steel Reinforced Hidden Deck Fastening System. A picture-perfect deck every time. Visit strongtie.com/Ebb-Tie Premium to find out more.
Okay, that's one way to do it. That's one premium hidden deck fastener. Let's see. Okay, this might be the same one.
The patented Ebb-Tie Premium Hidden Deck Fastening System by Simpson Strong Tie has so many design improvements. It's easier than ever to
It is the
install
same video.
at any skill level.
Sorry, that was the same video. I thought that was a different video. Okay, so here's another way to fasten deck boards. Yet another way.
Introducing the Simpson Strong Tie Deck Drive DCU Screw Plug Solution. A great way to finish off your composite deck with a clean, professional look. It's easy to install and made from the exact same material as your deck board, so it's a perfect match. The solution can be installed by a quick drive auto feed fastener system or by hand. Once your boards are laid out and ready for fastening, insert the auto set driver bit into your impact driver or drill and place a deck drive DCU composite screw on the bit. Countersink the screw until the non-abrasive depth stop touches the deck board. The bit ensures the screw will automatically be driven to the correct depth. Make sure to countersink the screw perpendicular to the board. Then remove any excess debris and place a plug in the hole, ensuring the grain of the plug lines up with the grain of the board. Use a clean, smooth-faced hammer to tap the plug until flush with the board, taking care not to mar the board. You can also install the plugs with the Simpson Strong Tie Quick Drive Pro 300S auto feed system.
Jesus.
First,
like an Uzi.
insert the quick drive auto set driver bit into the mandrel, then reassemble the quick drive attachment to the driver motor. Now, simply turn the depth adjustment of the quick drive tool to maximum. Insert a strip of deck drive DCU composite collated screws into the feed track. Drive the screw into your board until completely countersunk. Remove the debris and place a plug in the hole, once again ensuring the grain of the plug lines up with the grain of the board. Use a clean, smooth-faced hammer to tap the plug until flush with the board, once again taking care not to mar the board. Repeat the process for the rest of the boards until your deck is complete. Get a clean, professional finish for your deck. Visit strongtie.com/DCU screw plug.
All right, that's two ways of doing it. Now let's look at this way. Oh wait, did I put? So this is interesting as heck, I think. Let's see, there's got to be a way to get this thing blown up. Nope. Okay, never mind. Never mind on that. Never mind doing that. Oh, come on. Come back. Oh, okay. Interesting. Let's just go back to home. I wanted to show you this. This was a very popular way to do blind deck board installation at one point. It's still available. We can still do them this way. Okay, so what you're seeing is where you would put these metal fasteners, and this is what they would look like. They look like that. It's a clip. Goes along the joist, right? And then from underneath, you screw, it's got a fastener, it holds the fastener in place, and you toe screw from the underneath part of the board and draw it down. Interesting, huh? Now there's another one. That's the one with these long stainless or steel. I think they're stainless, but these steel brackets with holes in them. This is another way of doing it. This is a gripped slot in the edge of a lot of your boards. I'd say almost most of your boards, like TimberTech, which I'm going to show you a video on, will have this slot, which allows you to do it blind. Of course, you can do it with those plugs. You can do it with stainless steel or colored deck screws, showing a small head. I think if you're going to go to the trouble of making a really cool deck, I think you should fasten it blind personally. So there's those brackets I was mentioning that you toe screw from the bottom. Does it totally blind. It's got a good hold on it. Okay. Let's go back to. Okay, I showed you the deck drive plug video, and now we're going to go to RDU deck rail Balustrade lecture lab. But before we do, let me go back one and bring this up. Okay, so this is on Canvas and it's available to anybody that wants it. You can print this out. You can go to just Google City of Santa Barbara guardrail requirements. And this will tell you in handrails and guardrails that keep people from falling off that you've got to have, with 4 or more risers, you've got to have a continuous rail. They got to be 34 to 38 on the rake. They've got to be 42 on the level, and that's right here. Top of guardrails should not be less than 42 in height. Anyway, this gives you a fair amount of information on guardrails and handrails that is germane to any guardrails and any handrails that you do in Santa Barbara. But I think this is based on IBC, which is the International Building Code too. So I think this is pretty universal. One thing I just saw though, which is kind of interesting, is that I see here that a sphere of 4 3/8 inches in diameter cannot pass through. Well, we use 4 inches. 4 inches. Yeah, so I'm going to show you, I am going to show you my I'm going to show you a deck that I like to do. Just as an example, and it's not so much the deck and deck framing, that's a whole other issue, which we can talk about, but we're not going to. What we're going to talk about is the layout of the deck for the handrail / guardrail balustrade. And what's important to know about this is that if you have the option, in other words, if you don't have some controls and you have the option to make your deck the size that you want it, and you can tweak it, and you don't have you're not limited by certain factors, then you can lay out a deck where you have equal balustrades, equal space, newel to newel. So let's see if I can do this. And by the way, this guy, Jerry DeHogue, his company is Trimworks. That's his telephone number. He's looking for workers. He's looking for journeyman finish guys all the way down to entry-level people. He's got more work than he can handle, and he's hiring. He's a really, really good, really accomplished finish carpenter. I've got a great crew. I've placed a couple of students with him over the years, and they've done pretty well. if you're really interested in finished carpentry and you're interested in working, this would not be a stand around job, I can tell you that, or a sit around job. Okay, so a deck. Let's start with a house. I'm going to make this a simple deck, a very simple deck. And what we're going to do is we're going to ledger, and we're going to ledger about 3 inches away from the edge. It's relatively arbitrary. And let's just say this house is 50 feet, good round number, across. And it's got doors and windows and all kinds of stuff in it, but none of that's, this is a down view, it's a plan view. So none of that's germane right now. We're gonna put a ledger on it. We're gonna do a deck that's 30 feet. 30 feet of this 50, right? So it's gonna be about out to here. So we're gonna do 30 feet all together from 3 inches back. So it'll really be, that'll be what left, 19 feet 9. And we're gonna come out, we like 12 feet. We like 12 feet out on that deck by 30 feet. And for purposes of argument, right now, this deck is going to be accessed from a slider inside the house. And it's not going to have any stairs that access the backyard. And we can always add stairs anywhere we want to, at any time in this deck design. But for this particular deck, I want to lay out the balustrades with you. And I want to lay out the balustrades if you have some room to call out the numbers and say that's 30 feet and that's 12 feet. You notice I'm using 6-foot increments. I really like 6-foot increments because basically that's the max you want to go on a balustrade, newel to newel. So let's first get some nomenclature down here. Nomenclature. And this is really deck handrail nomenclature. So there's just a few things, and this works on a deck. It works on interior of a house, guardrail, handrail, balustrade. Works on outside stairs going down, inside stairs going up. Anywhere you have a railing. A railing is going to be composed of a rail, which could be a top rail, or a handrail. But in this case, what I'm going to lay out here for you is a guardrail. So it'll have a top rail and a sub top rail. And then it's going to have a bottom rail. The main thing it's going to have, well, not the main thing, it's all part of it. It's going to have newel posts. Or newels, and it's going to have a balustrade, which will be made out of pickets or balusters. Balustrade, which is made out of balusters, and some people call them pickets, but pickets is a little too fancy for me. I like them to be known as balustrade. So really, the components of this this deck railing that we're going to lay out has got rails, it's got a top rail, a sub top rail. It does not have a handrail. In this case, it doesn't need a handrail. It would have a handrail if it went down more than 4 stairs, 4 risers. It has bottom rail, it's got newel posts, and it's got a balustrade that infills in between the newel posts. So let's just pretend that this deck is already joisted, posted, beamed, supported, and decked. Yeah, decked. And then what you've done on the side is you ran your decks out to your doubler or your header. Let's say it's a header. It's posted. And your deck boards are running like this.
Rodney, we can't see you now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry for interrupting.
Was Linda the only one that was going to speak up?
I want to build a deck after class, so this is really important to me.
You want to do what now?
Build a deck right after class.
That's good. It's the most fun thing there is to build. So looking through, this would be a post that would be down on a pier block or a caisson, the way they show on the book, right? That goes down into the ground, full of concrete. Supports a post, which supports a header, which hangs, which has a hanger on the joists. And I'm gonna pretend that our deck is on there. All our deck boards are on there, but they hang over 1.5 inches that way, because they get a 3/4 inch fascia on them that covers that header. 3/4 inch of clear redwood or something like that, a fascia, or a couple of TimberTech boards. And so then your deck hangs over 3/4 inch. Okay, this is relatively important because, and I'll go back and I'll actually draw this a little lower so I can show you this cross section I want to show you. So you still see? Yeah, you can still see. Okay, a little lower for our deck joist. And our deck boards. Which are gapped, of course, fascia. This guy hits a header beam, which is probably a little bigger than the deck joists. Matter of fact, for sure, let's say these deck joists are 2x8, and this is going to be a 4x12. And your fascia will come down and cover the whole thing. Okay. So now this is all decked, right? Deck boards, 1x6 TimberTech, running all the way across it, or Redwood or Ipe, it doesn't really matter. And it's hanging out, and you snapped lines and cut it, and you ran the fascia, and everywhere you got your deck sticking out 3/4 inch past your 3/4 fascia, which is over the framing. Now we're going to lay out a guardrail. So guardrail balustrade system. So we're going to start out, and we're going to put one here. We're going to put one here. We're going to put one here. We're going to do the exact same thing over here. It's going to be at the house, basically. Okay, so you saw how they created the corners. That's how I do my corners too. So we're going to have a corner so where these basically touch. One of the rules of thumb in building any balustrades or anything that have to do with handrails and guardrails is 4 inches. 4 inches is really important. 4 inches is the space you cannot be greater than between balusters or between the deck and the bottom rail. So babies' heads can't go through there and they can't fall through. 4 inches is the magic number. So you want to be 4 inches or below in your spacing, not 4 inches and above. So that's the spaces between the balusters. And the balusters are the pickets And I'm going to show you those soon enough. But the idea here in laying out this deck is to get these guys as close to the same as you can. So you can do these four exactly the same. So basically, you know, if this is 12 feet, and this is going to be I think 1.5 inches back. So this is 1.5 inches back from the corner, right? So it's 12 feet minus 1.5 back from the corner, and then let's go minus these 3.5 inch posts. So 3 times 3.5 is 10.5. So 1.5 and 10.5 equals 12. So 12 inches from 144 inches, because that's what 12 feet is, 12 times 12. 12 inches from 144 inches is 132 inches. So that's what we got of space for balusters. If we take our 12 feet, which is 144 inches, and we're going to hold this 1.5 inches back, that's going to take up 3.5 inches. That's going to take up 3.5 inches. That's going to take up 3.5 inches. So 10.5 plus the 1.5 inches is 12, less our 140 from 144 leaves 132. And that divided by 2 equals 66 inches. 2 times 66 is 132. So each one of these spaces is 66 inches. Same thing here, exact same. Okay, so we've now made, and we've laid out, made marks on the deck so that we can install these newel posts and have the exact same spacing in all 4 of those areas. Can we do the same thing with our 30 feet? I don't know. Let's see if we can. I think we can. Pretty sure we can, but I don't know. So if we're going to do the same 1.5 inches, that's 3. So let's take 30 feet. 30 feet times 12 is 360 inches. Right? 30 times 12, 360 inches. And let's, so if we're going to go every 6 feet, that's going to be, let's see, 6 feet goes in the 35 times. So 5 times would be 5 spaces, 6, so 5 spaces. So yeah. So if we do 1 here.
I'm a class A. Oh wow!
You guys okay?
Whose car is this? My sister's. They can't see.
Rodney, I think one of the students doesn't have mute on.
Has what now?
Excuse me for interrupting, but I think one of the students do not have their session muted.
He just muted it.
Oh, okay.
Great. Thank you.
You bet. Okay. You guys see this right side up, right? Because I see it backwards. All right,
It's
so-
right for us.
5 spaces. Okay. So anyway, 5 spaces. 1, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4 spaces, 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So 5 spaces that because we don't want anything more than 6 feet run. We know we're going to be less than 6 feet because we don't just have the spaces. We've got the newel posts and then we've got the distance back from the edges too. So let's go ahead and take off everything out of this 360 inches and see what we got left. We're going to take off the 2 ends. That's 3 inches. So it's going to be -3. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3.5 inch 4x4s. 6 times 3.5 inches. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times a half is 3. So that's 21 inches. So let's make this 24. 24 from 360 is 336, right? Yeah, 336. So those are the inches that we've got to play with for our spacing, right? Given that 30 feet edge to edge, and we've laid this out. We've been really careful to make our deck these numbers. Now, your deck can come out any number. If it didn't come out these exact numbers, then you would play with the numbers you did come out. The whole idea, and this exercise that I'm laying out for you right now, is to try your absolute best to get these spaces equal. So you know you can get these spaces equal. Let's see if we can do these. So 360, 30 times 12 is 360 less 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those, which is 21, plus inch and a half, which is 3, 24. So that's 336 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. 336 divided by 5 equals 67.2. Okay. Okay, so these guys are 67.2. So 0.2, we're going to call it 67 and 3/16. That should do it. 0.2, 3/16 is what? 0.1875. A quarter is 0.25. So it's 3/16 plus just a skosh. So these are all 67 and 3/16. And if you were using your head, you'd make this wide enough so that they worked out exactly 66, or rather narrow enough. And so let's just say for purposes of argument, well, you know what? Let's not. Because one thing you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to get in a deck like this, you're going to be able to get these 4 spaces the same, and you may be able to get these spaces the same, but they're not. Unless you do the math beforehand and you shrink your deck so that it works. And let's say we're going to do that. Let's say we have the room to make this deck what we want within inches, right? We're not up against something that's curtailing what we want to do. And we want to work this out so it's the easiest to do the guardrail. So we can do this incredibly economical system and not make 9 different balustrades. So we're going to make 1 balustrade. So to do that, let's work backwards. And let's, for purposes of argument, say this is not 30 feet. So we won't have that. But what we will have is we know we're going to have this 66, right? So let's go ahead and work backwards from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 66-inch spaces. So 5 times 66 is 330 plus 24, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those times 3.5 is 21 plus an inch and a half, and an inch and a half is 24. So we're going to make our deck 354 inches, not 360. We're going to make it 6 inches less. So it's going to wind up being 29 foot 6 inches. Now that's going to allow us at 29 foot 6 inches, which equals 354. That's going to allow us to take that 354 and subtract our 3 inches, and 21, which is 24, and come up with 330. And if we divide that by the 5 spaces, we're going to get 66. So all of our spaces are going to be 66. All of our newel to newel spaces are 66. You got that? Newel to newel. That's post to post. Now forget about these because they're close enough, an inch and a half away, an inch and a half away. These will almost touch, so you'll have a space less than 4 inches, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about any balustrades, top rails, bottom rails, or balusters. You just have to create guardrail or balustrades, infills in between these newel posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you're going to have 9 balusters, 9 baluster spaces, 9 newel to newel spaces by 66 inches. What a gas. Oh my gosh, what a gas. I love that. So we've done that. We've built our deck 29.6 by 12, and we know the layout of our using the 4x4 post. Now we're going to go ahead and put our post on. We're going to cut all our posts long. We know that a guardrail on the level needs to be 42 inches minimum. 42 inches minimum. And that's 42 inches from here. And let's, for purposes of argument, say that we have made our deck dead level in this direction. We've set a ledger, it's dead level, and we've come out this way, dead level. We don't need to shed any water. The deck boards have spaces that will shed water. We're not sloping downhill. This deck is dead level in both directions. If it wasn't, we'd have to take that into account. But at this point, it is dead level. So if this is going to be 42 inches above the deck, and this here is 11.5 inch fascia, 11.5 inch header. So we have 11.5, we have, and this is an 1.5 inch board. Let's say it's a 2x deck board. No, I take it back. This is going to be a 1 inch timber deck board. So that's going to be 12.5, right? From here to here, 12.5. So we're going to hang our newel posts down 10 inches. And we're going to run them wild because it's going to want to be 42 finish. So 10 inches down from here, and 42 is 52. So we're going to run them at least 54 inches. We're going to cut them 54 inches, which is too bad we can't use 8s. Could we use an 8 at 96? No, we couldn't use an 8 at 96 because that's 42. Well, I take it back. I take it back because really this guy here is going to be cut 1.5 inches low. So let's see. So that's going to be 40.5. No, it still won't make it. So we're going to have to use 10s. So you're going to have to buy 10-foot 4x4s. You'll have a little bit of waste. We didn't used to have to do 42. We used to have to do 36, and 8s worked out a lot better. But now we have to do 42. So how this is going to stack up is it's going to have a let-in. Well, let me show you. I might make this a little bigger. Okay, I'm gonna make this a little bigger. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna take all these posts. You're gonna cut them all long at 54 inches. That's about 2 inches long. And you're going to run them wild. Now, if you're convinced that this deck is dead level, then you don't really have to run them wild. But typically, I run them wild at 54 and get them all bolted on. So I cut them at 54. I take each one of these guys, I take them to the shop or I set up on the site and I cut a notch out of them. And I chamfer the back. So at the bottom, this, I have to cut out, I have to make a cutout, right? As the deck boards that hang over and hang over the fascia, I have to make a cutout so that the 4x4 post can go in there. But I make this 1.5 inches, I leave 2 inches of meat. So this is 12 inches up because it's going to set on the deck board. So 12 inches up and 1.5 inches in. I cut that out. So that's gone. because all of my newels are gonna now go into my cutout on the deck, and they're gonna set down on that, right? And they're gonna set down, this is gonna be a deck board, right? Fascia hits somewhere in here, and we're gonna bolt. We're gonna through bolt with washers and nuts in two places. This header, through the header. We're gonna bolt these guys on. And we're gonna plumb them up. So as we go along, I haven't even gotten to the good part yet. As we go along, perspective, it's all perspective. We go along looking at this thing in a face view, right? We're going to see our fascia board, 29'6", pretty much. We're going to see, you know, our posts below, maybe, unless we put some kind of a skirt on them, down to our grade. But we're gonna see our newel post. It's going to be 1.5 inches back. It's going to run up. And let's say we did run them all wild, and then we put a laser level on them, and we got them dead level, and we got them dead level because the deck is dead level. It's a little different ballgame if the deck's not level, but let's just say the deck is dead level. That means these guys are going to be cut off at 40.5 from the deck. 40.5 from the deck. Because when we add our top rail, our finished top rail across the top, which is 1.5 inches, it's going to make it 42 inches off the deck. So let's say we have both of these on and we've shot a level line, and we have a level line everywhere, okay? So we pull them all off, we take them back to the shop, or we take them to the bench on the site, or, you know, set out in the backyard or wherever we're doing our deck. And we take these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus 5. We take these 11, no, plus 6. We take these 12 newel posts and we cut them off at basically 42.5, right? Or I'm sorry, 52.5. They're going to be from where we cut them to 40.5 to the deck. We have 1.5 inch deck boards and then 10 inches hanging down. So that's 11.5. We can use 1.5 inch deck boards. No, we'll use 1.5 inch deck boards. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, 11.5 plus our 40.5 is 52. So the 54 was our wild, was when we cut them wild. So now we've got these 52-inch posts. We're going to put a chamfer on the bottom like that, right? We got 2 inches of meat. We're going to chamfer it. So it just breaks that. So it's not a big, ugly square edge looking at you from the face. So that when you look at this newel, you know, this nice chamfered edge at the bottom kind of dresses it up a little bit. Were you able to see that? Yeah, good. Okay, so now we've got these 52-inch newel posts, and we're going to take them off, and we're going to put them on a bench or sawhorses or something, and we're going to do a variety of things. On the ends, here, 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 here. So on these 4 posts that go at the building and at the corners, the 2 that go in each corner, so it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're only going to do a let in 1.5 inches by 3/4. So it's 3/4 in this way, and it's 1.5 inches down, because that's what our deck is. Our deck's 1.5 inches. So it's 1.5 inches down. And it's 3/4 in that way. And so that board would be, if we looked at the deck this way on this side, it would be this one. But this one and every other one that's not on the corner is going to have a 3/4 by 1.5 let in on either side. Okay, on either side. Now at 40.5, you're gonna measure down to 36.5, and you're gonna do another let in, 3/4 in by 1.5 inches. And on these guys, on the mid span ones, you're gonna do it on both sides. On the corners, just one side facing this way, one side facing that way, one side facing that way, one side that way, that way, that way, right? But the ones in the middle, get it on both sides. You follow me so far? Good. So by doing this, by measuring down from here, which we know is dead level all the way around, and by measuring down 36.5 inches, that's 36.5 inches to here from the top. We know what's, and then the 1.5 inches let in by 3/4 in is up above. We know what's left is 4 inches. And that's fine. And if the deck's level, and this let in is done at 4 inches, then you're golden. You have to be 4 inches and below, and you're not above 4 inches. So your space below is going to be 4 inches and not greater than 4 inches. All right. So now you bolt these all back up. You go back and you plumb them up. You plumb them up this way. You plumb them up this way. Plumb them in both directions, right? So if you need to get behind these guys and put a shim here or a shim here to get them to go either this way or this way to get them to plumb. So they have to be plumbed this way and they have to be plumbed this way, right? 2 directions. And you bolt them all up and they're dead level and they're all cut. They're cut exactly 40.5 inches off the deck because the deck's dead level and you got let-ins on both sides, top and bottom for your subtop rail and your bottom rail on all these guys. And then on one side only on all the guys that are on the ends, the newel posts. We're calling them guys now. The newel posts. Wow. Okay, so we'll get to the best part of this after the break because we just went another 50 minutes without a break. God, time flies when you're having fun, doesn't it? So I am going to show you my shining face one more time. Get out of the pin, get into the view, and tell you that I got 11 o'clock straight up. 10 after. Come on back at 10 after, okay? See you back here. And then we'll get to the really magical part.
Rodney, the recording is on if you want to turn it off.
I'm sorry, what's that again, Jose?
What nationality are you?
One more time, let me turn this up. One more time.
What nationality are you?
What would your guess be?
With your last name, I would think you're Native American.
That's good. That's good. You know, I wish I was. I think I would. Then I'd be eligible for all kinds of monies, I hope.
Yeah, don't believe
No,
that. Don't believe the hype.
He's not.
Actually, my last name is probably shortened from Utterback or Uttenstein, you know, something. My family is from Germany and Wales. So I'm Welsh and German. I was born in Toledo, Ohio, in the Ohio River Valley, and I lived in Missouri. Lived in Ohio from 48 to 53, Missouri and Kansas 53 to 58, San Fernando Valley 58 to 68, Santa Barbara 68 to the present day.
Wow.
So those are
Been
my,
all over.
Yeah, yeah. And I have traveled the world. Well, not the world. I've traveled a fair amount of Europe, a lot of the US, Mexico, Canada, a lot of Central America, and a fair amount of South America too.
Wow,
And
that's
the Hawaiian.
interesting.
Yeah.
But
Hawaiian
you have a
Islands.
lot of interesting stories.
Oh, you have no idea. If you only knew. I mean, I'm going to tell you a story right now. I'm going to tell everybody a story right now, just because you mentioned it and because I can get away with it here, and I'm not giving anybody. I don't have anybody giving me guff about telling.
I'm so offended. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Joshua, you made it. You made it late, huh? Josh.
Yeah.
Okay. How late were you, Josh?
Well, I was here throughout the class, just I was driving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just try to be somewhere where I can see your face by 9, please. But you're here, and it's important that I mark you here. And are we recording again, right? Okay, good. Josh is here. Did D'Angelo or Manny or Armando show up? No. Okay. So so part of what I did, one of the things I did was I was a abalone diver in 1974. And then from abalones, I transitioned into sea urchins because there was a lot of sea urchins. And that's where the money was. It was starting to happen right then and there. And so one day about, I don't know, I bought this boat. I was trained by this guy, Jim Clark. I bought into a boat. So 50-50, we owned this 36 by 12 Radden with twin 454 Corvette engines in it. Number 3 Merc outdrives. We got up on a plane and went, we could do 35 knots unloaded. It's a beautiful boat. It was built to do the channel crossing, which gets pretty gnarly. And we harvested sea urchins mostly at San Miguel Island. We did work Santa Cruz and Santa Rosa occasionally and the coast every now and then, but mostly San Miguel Island. And about 2 years, maybe 3 years into doing this job, in a 3/8 wetsuit, on the bottom and air made on deck, urchins were getting a little scarcer because when I first started, you didn't look for sea urchins, you just looked for kelp. Now we had to find our urchins. So in doing that, we would have one diver in the water, and in this case, it was me, inside Crooks, which is on the backside of San Miguel Island, which is a 7-mile long island, the furthest north and west from us. It's out. It gets out of the lee of Point Conception, so we get the prevailing northwesterlies. It gets really snotty out there. There's all kinds of incredible things happening, but I digress. So I'm in the water, and even though we harvest with hookah, which is air compressed into a volume tank, and we go down with a hose, so we breathe air made on deck. I'm down with scuba, and we can't legally harvest with scuba, but we can find with scuba. So I'm searching for sea urchins with a Farallon with 2 motorcycle batteries. It's got a headlight and a propeller. It's a propelling unit that I'm holding onto. So we call it the torpedo. And so I'm cruising along in scuba, and I would find 4 or 5 250-pound bags in my estimations of urchins. I would surface. In the meantime, the boat would be live boating or following my bubbles. I'd go like this. The boat would come over, and we would buoy the spot. And then we'd buoy 3 or 4 spots, and then come back and drop the hook or kelp tie, and then get 2 divers in the water, and then we'd get in our hookah rigs, and we'd start harvesting. Well, this particular day, I surfaced, and there was no boat. I look around, and there's no boat, man. I cannot even see the boat. And then finally, I see the boat, and it's like a mile away. And I'm going, ring, come on, man. So these guys come back, and they're all excited. And I climb on the boat, and everybody's just like beside themselves with excitement because they've been playing with this gray whale who's hanging out in the kelp inside Crooks Point. So I get on the boat, and we jam over, and sure enough, there's this 35-foot gray whale, full-grown gray. His head's about 5 or 6 feet out of the water, and he's straining water and kelp through his balines, to get the krill. He's feeding. And, we just hang around with him, and we like ease the boat over to him and reach over the gunnel and touch him. And he surfaced and reappeared 30 feet away in the kelp. And so my partner, Rod Cochran, was the first one in the water with him. Rod's since passed on. He died early at a young age of melanoma. But anyway, he was in the first one in the water, and I will never forget, if I live to be a million. Look, because San Miguel, the water is really clear, visibility, sometimes, at least 40 fathoms visibility. I mean, really big visibility. You can see almost to the bottom in 35 or 40 feet of water. And I can see my partner in scuba, and I can see him kind of like get close to the whale, and the whale is constantly moving, right? Constantly moving. And then I can see him settle down on the narrow part of the whale's tail, the whale drop down, and then take off to the kelp with my partner streaming bubbles hanging out of the tail of the whale. And so he surfaces, and he's just hooting and hollering. And anyway, I was the next one in the water with him. I got in the water in scuba, and the whale's constantly moving, and a gray whale's body is completely covered with barnacles. I mean, completely, just barnacles, right? It's just gross and barnacles. But his tail is about 6 feet, and it's like smooth velvet rubber. And it's a 35-foot whale. It's huge. And, it's scary and super exciting all at the same time. And I settled down on the narrow part of his tail, and he dropped down and took off through the kelp with me hanging on for, a couple seconds. And then I surfaced, and we spent the whole day and 250 gallons of gas playing with this whale. We came back with no urchins, no nothing, just a tale for the ages. Yeah, so I got to ride on the tail of a gray whale. And this is a true story. Cross my heart, hope to die. Everything I told you is 100% truth.
That's so awesome. Oh my gosh.
It is, and I should really write about it, because I think back in some of the experiences I had out there, which is like a dream. And sometimes I have to ask myself, did I really do that? And yeah, I did really do that. Okay, so thanks for answering those questions, John. Thanks for answering those questions. So I'm going to jump back on here. I'm going to mute Brenda. I'm going to jump back on and pin myself and see if I can't get you through the best part of this. Okay. Now I realize there are a lot of conditions on decks that you may or may not be able to use this, but you can use some version of this. And I want you to get the concept of trying to get the spacing consistent. The consistent spacing is really everything. So you're making one baluster and not 12 balusters. 9. Making one rather than 9. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 4, 9. Okay. Now, I was just reading in the book. They recommend an 1/8 inch of a foot of fall. So dead level this way. So your ledger would be set dead level at the house over here. But this way coming out, they recommend an 1/8 inch of fall. I don't know why, because the water, your deck boards are running this way. Your deck boards are all gapped. It's not a tight deck. So any water is going to fall between your deck boards. So I'm not sure why they want the fall, but the fall would be no problem whatsoever. You just got to remember that in an 1/8 inch to a foot, if you do actually go from here to here in 12 feet and get an 1/8 inch of fall, that's 12/8. That's 1 1/2 inches of fall. So from level at the house to 12 feet out, you've gone down 1 1/2 inches, which means if you go level, if you do this out here, by the time, or here, right? If you do this here, by the time you get out here, you're gonna, this 4 inches is gonna be 5 1/2. So you need to work backwards. If you're gonna have fall and out of level, you need to have that 4 inches be at your lowest point on the deck where the fall is, and then work backwards. And then by the time you get back to the house, that 4 inches will be 2 1/2, which is fine. As long as it's less than 4, you're golden. You can't be more than 4. I hope most of you got this. So let's get back to this balustrade, because now at this point, you know, the deck's done, the deck is skinned, the fascia's on, we've made the notches, we've done the layout, and we've notched out our deck and fascia. We've cut the 54-inch 4x4s. We run them wild, longer than they need to be. We've run a level line around them. We've taken them down. We've cut them all off. We've bandsawed out this relief here to let them into the deck so that they're not sticking out the whole 4x4. And then we've done these. We've used a dado head or a router, and we've done these let ends 3/4 deep by 1.5 inches, 3/4 deep by 1.5 inches. We've done them on one side or both sides, depending upon where the newels are. So remember, and number your newels. So they correspond with the plan you have numbered, so you know where they go. So you know that this one just gets let-ins on this side, not this side, and that this one gets them on both sides, this one on just that side, this one on that side, both sides, both sides, both sides, both sides, that side, both sides, that side, okay? Now, your posts are up, and they're all level. The tops are level. They're level at 40.5 inches off the deck because we made a dead level deck. Now, we have 9 66 exactly spaces between our posts. It's incredible. So do we make 9 66-inch balustrades? No, we don't. We don't, because we have 3/4 let-ins. We have 3/4 let-ins for a reason. This is a beautiful look, by the way. It's a real, I was going to take pictures of my deck. This mimics a deck I have at my house, but it's not like this, and I haven't done it. It wasn't planned out like this, but the details of the let-in sub rail and bottom rail and applied top rail are there. So these let-ins look really good. You see this, right? You see that 2x going in there. You see that. But what we're going to do in these 9 spaces that are exactly alike is we're going to figure equal spacing for our balustrade. So let's go ahead and show this thing. Excuse me. Okay, I know it's kind of scribbly, but this space right here is 66 inches, and we've got 9 of them, 66 inches, and we've somehow laid this out. So, and we've had to fudge a little bit, so they're all 66 inches. So now we can make 9 balustrades exactly the same, which is really cool. So here's the formula. The formula is you take the newel to newel, 66. So we always take post to post, or newel to newel, add 1 baluster. Okay, a baluster, in this case, we're going to do 2x2 balusters. So 2x2 balusters, we're going to do a 2x6 top rail. We're doing the balustrade on 2x4s, Redwood, because we've used 4x4s. So they're 3.5, and the 2x4s are also 3.5. So we're going to use Redwood. And by the way, Redwood Con Heart is what we used to use. The 2x2 are relatively inexpensive in clear green, or a B grade Redwood clear, which is great for the 2x2s. And they come 2x2. So you don't have to rip anything. You don't have to do anything. And the 2x4s, same thing. 2x4 bottom rail, 2x4 top rail, 2x6 top rail, and the 2x2 balusters are all buyout materials. Now, I'm talking about a Redwood deck. This can all change with a TimberTech or an Ipe deck, which is going to be perhaps different thicknesses. But talking about the way we used to do decks and the way the deck is at my house, which is 2x Redwood Con Heart decking. That's what we're using. And for the railing, we're using more of a clear version although the posts clear are pretty expensive. Use a Conhart post, but like to use clear or B grade. For
I'm
the
sorry to interrupt, Ronnie. Are you saying Conhart? I can't understand.
Conhart, just exactly what you said. Conhart, Conheart, Conhart, and it means construction heart. So it's the heart of the tree, which is the most resistant to rot of the redwood tree. So construction heart, it's a grade of redwood, Conhart. Okay, so we got 66 inches is our newel to newel or post to post dimension. To get centers, because we're going to lay out via centers, we want to make sure that our spacing is right, not more than 4 inches between the newels. We got to add a baluster. So we have to add a half a baluster. So at each one of these runs, this run here, right? That's 66 inches. We got to add a half a baluster and a half a baluster. That gets us into center, imaginary centers of that baluster. So you take the newel to newel dimension, add a baluster, you get 67 and a half. Now that 67 and a half, we're going to divide by 5 and a half. Can someone unmute themselves and tell me why we're going to divide it by 5 and a half?
That's the width of one space and one piece.
Yeah, so what 5 and a half is if we've got an 1.5 inch baluster and an 1.5 inch baluster, and the center line, through the center line, if it's 5 and a half to the center line of these balusters, because that's how we're laying out is center line, then the space is 4 inches, right? That's why we use 5 and a half. We're going to throw this out the window, but this is our initial run to see how many centers we're going to have. So 5 and a half into 67 and a half. 67.5 divided by 5.5 equals. It's 12.27. So that's 12 and a quarter. So, okay. So.
But isn't there 1.5 inches from each of the newels?
No, it's 3/4.
Oh, okay, 3/4, sorry.
3/4. That's a half of a baluster.
Okay, I see.
Half a baluster, half a baluster. So you add 1 baluster, 2 halves equal a whole. So that gives you 67 and a half. You do 5 and a half into that, comes out with 12.27. Always round up, always. So even if it's 12.1 or 12.0006, round up to 13. If it's 14.3, round up to 14. If it's 17 point anything, round up. So that comes out to 12.27, which equals 13 centers. 13 centers. So just round up. The 5 and a half into your newel to newel plus a baluster gives you a number. You're going to round up to the next whole number. That's the 13 spaces. So now we're going to take 13 because that's how many centers we're going to have. We're going to have 13, including the ones on the end. So 67.5 divided by 13 equals 5.19. So 5.1875 is 5 3/16. So we're going to call this 5 3/16. So that's your magic number. 13 centers into the 67 and a half equals 5 3/16, which it really comes out 5.2. But it's close enough to 5 3/16 that nobody's going to know the difference. You're going to make that all. You're going to make that all work. So now you know that you're going to have 5 3/16 centers on your 2x balusters. So now you're going to take and you're going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 2 is 18. You're going to cut 18 2x4, top and subtop and bottom rails. 18 of them, the exact same size. And you're going to cut them all 67.5. Because that's the distance of your 66 newel to newel plus 3/4 of your lead ends, right? So a 67.5 inch piece is going to drop right in there, right? And on those guys, you're going to lay them on the bench and you're going to throw your tape over the end, which is burning an imaginary center. And you're going to start laying out the center at 5 and 3/16, 5 and 3/16, 5 and 3/16, 5 and 3/16. You're going to lay out centers. Your last 5 and 3/16 will take you to the end of that board. And the same thing corresponding below. The last 5 and 3/16 will give you to the end of that board. You're going to put your 2x2s in there to center. You're going to center them on that mark. And you're going to nail. So looking from the top of this rail, if this is the centered, and to get it centered, laying on the bench, you've got a 3.5 inch top rail. You got an 1.5 inch baluster going in the middle. So 1.5 inch from 3 is 2. So that leaves you 1 inch here and 1 inch there. So you just make a piece of 1 inch stock, put it on your bench and let your balusters lay on it. And that will center them. And then you're going to put a nail and a nail, galvanized nails through the bottom of your bottom rail and through the top of your sub top rail. And that's going to lock your balusters in so they can't turn. If you just put one nail in the middle, you could spin your balusters. By doing a diagonal nail and nail, 2.5 inch finish nail, or it doesn't really matter, but galvanized because it's going to be outside, right? That will keep your balusters from locking. So now you're just going to make up 9 balustrades that are nailed or screwed, whatever you like, up through the bottom of your bottom rail, through the top of your sub top rail, and you're going to have 13 centers is going to give you 12 balusters. So you're going to cut all your balusters the same length. And by the way, your balusters will all be cut the same length. They'll all be cut 40.5 less 4 is 36.5 less 3. They're all going to be 33.5. Every single baluster will be the same cut because it's dead level. And by the way, even if your deck's not level, the lead ends, between this lead end and that lead end, that's going to be the same all the way because you planned it that way. So now you've made 9 balustrades and you've made them on the bench and they look like this. They got a sub top rail, 2x4, a bottom rail, and they got balusters attached. And then you just walk up to your spaces and slide it in and nail it, toenail it, and toenail it. Now your baluster's done. Now you can just run your 2x6 cap. You run your 2x6 cap around, miter it, your nice, clean, clear 2x6 cap mitered. And your handrail / guardrail is done. And you've really only made one baluster by one set of measurements. So your balusters are one measurement. You cut all 99 of them. 67.5, you've cut all 18 of them. With a stop set up on your chop saw, you cut them all exactly the same. You're only making one measurement. You're setting a stop. And that's the beauty of these, anything you're using to chop stuff like this or to cut it to length, you're probably using a chop saw or a sliding compound miter saw, which has support, if not make a support to support your stock, and then make a place you can clamp, nail, or screw a stop block. And most of the stuff, like we have the portable tables that mount various chop saws, they have stops built in. So you just set up a stop. And you're going to cut 99 of these guys, 36.5 or 34, whatever the heck it is. You got to stop. Boom, stop, 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 stop. With a stop block, not measure, cut, no. One measure, 99 cuts, 98 cuts. Same thing with any of these guys. The 67s, one measure, stop block, cut. stop block cut. The only thing you got to remember is to make sure you blow between the stop block, the end of the stop block, because sometimes sawdust will collect and it'll push your boards out a little bit. And also you want to make a line on your block to make sure you haven't smacked into it and moved it. So that every one of those boards hits the same stop block at the same place. Now, in the shop, like if you had a shop with a Biesmeyer setup, a stationary chop saw with one of those Biesmeyer tapes, you can just drop their stop on and clamp it and read it at 67.5 and cut 18 67.5s or 99 of these babies. So, any questions about my my fabulous imaginary deck detail? Such a good deck detail. So the idea is to save yourself time. Save yourself time, save yourself measuring, and to do a product that is really quality and your joints are tight and they look good and you've spent the least amount of time doing it. Now, you know, you can't always do that, but with good planning, you can do it a lot of the time. And it's really cool to be able to do that. And it's really cool to be able to understand, you know, what's happening with baluster layout. Like for instance, you're not always doing my idea of a railing, right? You might be doing an interior hand railing or any kind of a hand railing, and maybe you're not doing the let-ins, right? Maybe you're not doing the let-ins at all. Maybe you've got a post-to-post situation where you've just got it just butts. And you just need to figure out the balusters. Let's say it's 66 again. Well, no, let's say it's something else. Let's say you've taken it to the max, 72, right? Newell to Newell. I don't know what style this is, but let's just say Newell to Newell, and you need to get a baluster in here. You need to get equal spacing on balusters, and you want to know what the spacing is. So the formula is, it's exactly the same. You just need to burn 1/2 of one baluster at either end. So if this is 72, you got to add 1/2 a baluster, and let's say in this case these are turned, and a lot of your baluster bases on turned balusters are 1.25 inches. So you're going to add 5/8, which is 1/2 a baluster, and 5/8. So you're going to burn 1/2 inch on either side. So you're going to take that 72, you're going to do the same thing we did. You're going to add a whole baluster, which is 1.25. You're going to come up with 73 1/4. You're going to divide that by 5.5 because it's the, oh, I'm sorry. You're not going to divide that by 5.5. You're going to divide that by 5 1/4. You're going to divide that by 5.25 because a 4-inch space and 1/2 of 5/8 half of 1.25 baluster at 5/8 and 1/2 of another one at 5/8 is 1.25. So 4 inches plus 1.25 is 5 1/4 because we're talking about balusters being 1.25 now. So 5 1/4 into 73 1/4. $13.95. Okay, so we can go to 14, which means our spaces are going to be fairly close to 4 inches, which is nice. So 13.95 was the answer there. 5.25 into 73 1/4, which came up with 13.95, which equals 14. So now we're going to take 14 into 73 1/4 because that's how many centers. 73.25 divided by 14. And it's 5.2321. Well, 0.25 is a quarter, so I'm going to call it a quarter, maybe minus. I might fudge a little bit when I lay out, just a hair, just to get it all laid out. Remember, you get to lay all this stuff out before you actually cut stuff. So you can fudge those little tiny pieces, but I'm going to call this 5 1/4. So it's 14 centers at 5.25, at 5 1/4. So when I lay those out, when I lay it out on my rail, if my rail does not go into a let-in, if my rail butts, my rail is 72, I got to burn a half a baluster. So I got to throw my tape into an imaginary 5/8 center when I lay that first one out at 5 1/4, that first center. And then the rest of my centers are all 5 1/4, 5 1/4, 5 1/4. And my last one should be 5 1/4 in 5/8 in. So really that center to here will be less 5/8. So what's that? 5 1/4 less 5/8 is 4 and 5/8. So that would be 4 and 5/8. But it would give you the same spaces, because when you go center to center, right? You've got center to center, and that leaves you X amount of space. Center to center. But if you get to the end or the beginning and you go center to post, you're going to have a smaller space than these spaces. You got to go center. It's got to hit center, an imaginary center, to have the spaces work out. It's really important. And so many people do not get this. Even journeymen don't get it. I mean, I've laid out guys that were pretty competent and come back and had this damn space be narrow because they just used the newel and didn't burn a half a baluster, didn't realize it in laying out centers. Now, laying out in centers is not the only way you can do this. You know, you can take the space, you can take the balusters, you can take the amount of balusters out of the space and then divide that by how many spaces. And, you know, you can lay out a space, a baluster space, a baluster space. You can do it that way. I like doing it this way. It's efficient, it's fast, you can check yourself, and I like using math. That's what carpentry is all about, using math. Math, man, math. Math is everything. So, anybody didn't understand on that? Anything at all? Anybody? Questions? Okay. How about, Lynn, let's go to, I was going to show you some stuff from Mutt Construction, but let's go to, let's see, I got to get back. Well, let's see if I can make this go away. Oh, crud. So let's go over, you all should have been reading chapter 29, which is a pretty cool chapter. I like it a lot. Let's just, let's do a few things, okay? We could go to the review questions. We haven't got a whole lot of time, so we'll go to flashcards. Okay, so ACQ, did Jim talk to you guys about this? All right. Yeah, ACQ is a non-toxic preservative for treating lumber, and it requires the use of stainless steel or heavily galvanized fasteners. So we don't like zinc copernate anymore, and we don't like arsenic treated woods. We're using ACQ treated woods, and they're legal, but you got to use stainless or galvanized. You cannot use regular steel. It'll corrode the heck out of it. It's a bad reaction between the two. So what I really did want to show you was something that I don't know if Jim had told you. So I'm digressing as I'll get out here. But when you do deck framing, it's best to use treated lumber because it's outside, and you know, it's outside and decks get wet and water goes down on them. But it's also really good to do something that you don't see this. I didn't see it in the book, so I want to just show you, and I think it's really important. When you do a deck, you've got joists. And the deck boards run across them, right? And the deck boards either fasten somehow, you know, blindly from underneath, or they have, you know, clips, or they screw down from the top, or they nail down from the top. Regardless, looking down on a deck, decks are gapped. There's gaps between the boards. Typically, we used to use a 16-penny galvanized nail for a deck.
We can't quite see to the right, Rodney.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. So boards are gapped, right? Boards are gapped. So water runs down and goes away. It doesn't stand on your deck. And they're gapped so that the joists, right? There's joists underneath them because that's where your fastening is for your joists. These joists, that's a section of, before you put your deck boards on them, get 4-inch bituthane. It comes in 4-inch strips.
I'm sorry to interrupt. 4-inch what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Bituthane. 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 It's a bituminous product. It's made from coal. It's got a sticky back. It comes in 4-inch. It comes in a variety of widths, and it comes in rolls. But you put you peel the sticky paper off, you roll it over your joists. And now you have protected your joists with a waterproofing that's beyond compare, and it's not going to go away. And so whatever water, see, it's not so much the water, because what happens over these joists and these gaps is debris gets in there. Organic debris, dust, leaves, stuff that you sweep off a deck, it collects there, dirt. And then water gets it wet, and it stays wet. It's in a confined space. It doesn't have a whole lot of drying out to happen. So it encourages rot. So by using pressure treated or PTMS, pressure treated mud sill, or pressure treated in an ACQ variety for your framing, you've really helped with the rot. But by wrapping it with bituthane, you have almost eliminated the potential for rot. Bituthane on top of your joists. Do it. It's happening. So happening. Every day at the mine. You could see him arrive. He stood 6'6". He weighed 245. Kind of. Okay. This is the stuff you're not supposed to use, I think. Yeah. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad stuff. This stuff used to be called zinc copernate. And man, you did not want to get it on your hands. You did not want to breathe it. You did not want to use it in an enclosed space. You can't even buy it anymore. So a closed porch would be an attached structure that's framed with studs and sided like the rest of the house, but it's more like an extension of the house than a transitional area. Composite decking. So let's go right to this stuff. So I picked TimberTech. There's a lot of kinds of composite decking. Trex was one of the first ones to come out. They still make decking. I'm not real wild about Trex. I have used TimberTech. They've been out a while. They have a lot of different grains and colors. I'm impressed with their product. I really like it. And that's why I decided to show you TimberTech. But they make decking. Here's the colors they make: mahogany, slate gray, and pecan. No, take it back, I guess. Yeah, I guess they make more than that. AZEC, I'm not sure exactly what that is. Huh. Those are the kinds of decking. It's a composite middle, and then it's wrapped with like a plastic. Let's see if it tells it. Why is it better than the competition? Unparalleled beauty, okay. Best class decking. Most advanced synthetic materials. It's a industry-leading capped polymer, and it's made without wood. Interesting. Unbeatable. You know, I've done these TimberTech decks, and they look as good as we put them up 10 years later. They stay cooler, better slip resistance, good widths. So really, your three types of decking these days are wood decks, which would be Redwood, still popular as a wood deck. Sometimes you see fir decks, but they don't last very well outside. You can paint them and make them last better, but fir's not really meant to be uncovered. Redwood, cedar deck. Cedar is a deck board that we've used. And then what's really gained a lot of popularity in the last 10 years are South American hardwoods. They lump them all into mahoganies, but Ipe is one of them. It's very hard. It's hard to work.
How are you spelling that?
IPE with an accent on the E. Ipe. Yeah, IPE, Ipe. It's beautiful wood. It's very dark, has some kind of gold streaks in it sometimes. Hard, it comes in 3/4 and which is 4/4 and 5/4. 5/4 S2S would be 1-inch net. And 1-inch net will take 16 centers. You can be supported on 16 centers at 1-inch net. At 3/4 net, you can't. You got to go 12-inch centers. I think most of this TimberTech is 1-inch net. So you can do 16 centers. But you can see that, I mean, that's really would be a cool thing to have, wouldn't it? I'd like to have that. I like that color too. Build-in benches and, lighting. And this stuff is like forever. You never have to paint it. You don't have to, refinish it every couple of years. It's just forever. It's, germane for what a cool little hot tub deck. Oh my gosh, I love this. You know what? I'm inspired. Ooh, I really like that. TimberTech, good stuff. Hayward's has it. It's not cheap, but you never have to mess with it, and it's not going to rot on you, ever. And they make, they make things like sleeves for your newels. So you put up 4x4 newels, and then they have a sleeve that fits over to it and fastens it, that makes it the same color and texture as you are doing with your deck, unless you want a different color and texture. But they got all the products and fasteners and stuff that goes with it. Pretty cool stuff. I would highly recommend them. But they're not the only guys out there. There are lots of people that will tell you that their decking is the best. I particularly like that decking. So we're getting down to 5 minutes to. Have I ever shown you guys any of the gallery for mud construction? Ever shown you the book building or the piano house or any of that? Okay, so for 5 minutes, we're going to do a kind of a fun thing. I hope it's fun for you. It's fun for me. So this is the company that used to be mine that I founded. And, oh crap, sorry about that. Come on, don't do that. But I founded and operated as a licensed contractor, a B1 and a C6, which allowed me to do cabinet making, finish work, and millwork until 2015 when I sold it to 2 long-term employees. One of the guys had been with me for 35 years. But these are some of the projects, really a small amount of the projects that that we did. And I was responsible not for that one, but everything else. I designed this. I designed this when we got back from our trip. This was a treehouse for the these are fantastic people. They have a ranch in St. Inez as well as a place in town. And this is the treehouse they designed for their granddaughter and out in one of their horse corrals. And by the way, that's clear redwood 2x6 for a top rail. We put built-ins, made it kind of a schoolhouse sort of thing. Windows are real and they open, you know, everything cut around the tree. And I believe this is an Ipe. This could be TimberTech. Could be TimberTech. But you see a fairly, this is a little bit like the railing I told you guys about, a lot like it. It was so much fun. This was a blast. And it was not that easy to do because, you know, I didn't have any reference points. I had to draw it around the tree. I had to do a plan view based on the tree. It was challenging, but spiral staircase, a drop down ladder, a trap door, you know, it's just really a killer project. Loved it. This is one of my favorite things in life right here. My friend, a longtime friend, and one of the most phenomenal people I know, smartest people I know, just an incredible guy named Peter Kornbluth, and he owns this company called Construction Plumbing, and he built a beautiful house that burned down in the Tea Fire, and he lost a 110-year-old orchard of 64 trees, and we were doing all his cabinets and his jambs and doors, and as the house got going, it's a rebuilt house, which is a completely different house. He asked me if we could use some of the wood from, he recovered 64 trunks, no bigger than 10 inches in diameter, no taller than 5 feet of this olive. I said, no, I don't want to, you know, we're gonna buy wood, and we're gonna buy sheet goods. Remember, buy it. Don't want to make anything. I said, but okay, bring a stick to the shop, bring a trunk, and we'll set up the bandsaw and we'll slice off a piece. And we did, and we looked at it and we went, oh my gosh. And we wound up milling, setting up a resaw and milling all of his olive wood. We milled it to 1.25 inch rough. We stickered it, which is on boards with spacing. We air dried it for 2 months. We built a solar kiln and kiln dried it for a month. We got it to 8% moisture content. We brought it back to the shop. We finish milled it, surfaced it to 4/4 net. And then we laminated it all together and made finished ends and drawer heads and doors. And we made this whole kitchen. You stand there at the kitchen sink looking out at these 64 bushed olive stumps, and you're surrounded by the olive wood. For the casework that showed, we used hickory pecan because it was really close in color to the olive wood. The olive wood has been bleached and then stained to homogenize the color. It was really wild and really full of knots and crazy stuff. I love this cabinet and I love these hinges. These are called aventos. So that's the doors closed. That's the doors open. You grab the handle, pull it towards you, and then the doors just float up above the opening. And then you grab the handle and pull it down, and the doors just float and push in, close. So cool. That's the island. The tops are quartzite. We built all the beams, all the box beams out of spruce, 2x12 spruce. We built all the doors out of cherry. They were bleached and sort of homogenized in color to go with that lighter color that we achieved with the olive wood. This is Peter and Story's office, olive wood cabs, knee space, uppers. Wait, what's this? Huh. Linda must have be gone. Okay, aren't these cool doors? God, I love these doors. Oh, we're there, man. We're there. Master bath. What a master bath, eh? Dogs, love this. Just love it. The WC, the toilet sits behind there, and there's a recess there for magazines and TP and stuff, and that's the guest vanity. So, my erstwhile students. Yeah, so when we have some filler time, I'll show you some more projects that I've done over the years. I got some pretty interesting one. That's probably my, well, if not my favorite, one of my favorite, because we were able to use that wood and create something that really pleased my owners, my clients, my customers, but it really pleased us. And it was a hassle to do, milling stuff that's odd sized and checked and hard as nails. It cost us more money, but it was worth it in every way, shape, and form. We really got off on it. We all did, everybody. So it's 2 minutes after 12. It's been a pleasure being here with all of you. And John, I'll see you Monday. Try not to get in too much trouble in the meantime. And Brendan and Jose, try not to blow up Hesperia while you're at it. All right. Joe, it's a pleasure having you interpret. I hope I get to see you again. And Ugo, glad you made it back safely. And how's your grandma, by the way? Did she make it? She doing all right? Anybody interpret that?
He's just responding. He said she passed.
I'm so sorry. I didn't want to say that.
He says, I'm a bit grieved because while I was on the flight home was when she passed.
Oh, shoot. So sorry.
And it was really awful. And it happened to also happen on my father's birthday. So it's really quite a time of grief for us right now.
Lo siento mucho, Ugo. Hang in there. Nobody gets out alive. Anyway, until next Saturday, everybody.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
review
you
that.
so
Review that back of that chapter. It's pretty easy. I think Jim's going to quiz you on it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we got to do the questions in the back.
Yeah.
I think he said, yeah.
Piece of cake.
Yes. Oh, this is a fun chapter.
It is. Decks, man.
And one of
He has
these,
to do a deck. Do it.
one of these days, you gotta come out this way, man, go do some shooting.
Oh, to do some shooting?
Yeah,
Oh, I would love to do that, dude. How far is Hesperia from Santa Barbara?
I'd say probably about.
About 4 hours, I think.
Yeah, about
Is that far? Is it near Tehachapi?
We're 180 miles north of Vegas.
Oh,
No,
Or
south of Vegas.
I mean.
yeah, north of Vegas.
Southwest.
Way to-
Yeah, no, southwest of Vegas.
Yeah, southwest of Vegas.
What
Yeah.
about